Triple H has buried Vince McMahon with the iconic golden shovel. But before we get into it, my name is Stephen Ramon. Welcome back to Unscripted Wrestling Media. So let's talk about the current state of the WWE. Now, as you all know, in July of 2022, earlier this year, Vince McMahon retired. It was shocking. It was unforeseen, okay? Following that, we know that Stephanie McMahon took over the company. Nick Khan is still running the company. Stephanie also brought in Triple H. Now, prior to the retirement of Vince, we all knew that WWE wasn't good. Let's just be honest, it was not good. It was hit or miss. We had some good things, we had a lot of bad things. We had silly storytelling. We had booking that made no sense, the absolute refusal to listen to the fan favorites, and I can go on and on and on and on, but I'm not gonna do that. However, when Triple H came into power, we saw a lot of things change, a lot, and as a result of that, he has literally transformed this company from a snooze fest to must-see TV on a consistent basis every week. Now, you're going to have a lot of people out there, a lot of your bigger YouTube channels that talk about wrestling. To them, they're going to still critique it really heavy. They're still going to say that the WWE, while improved, is still hit or miss. Now, here's the thing, okay? Wrestling is subjective. Being a fan is subjective. Being a wrestling content creator is absolutely 100% subjective. So everything that I'm getting ready to say in this video is just my honest opinion on what I feel Triple H has done with WWE. So one of the major ways that Triple H has really made WWE turn around is NXT. Now, before Triple H went out with the health conditions, he was the one in charge of running NXT, him and Shawn Michaels. We know that under the classic black and gold NXT, it was good. It was entertaining. We had great competition. We had great matches, great character development, good storylines. The NXT takeovers were absolutely amazing. Not to mention that there were also several times where the NXT takeovers were better than the actual premium live events or pay-per-views, whatever you want to call them, that preceded them the next day. So, when Triple H came into power, he immediately did one of the things that we as fans have been asking for freaking ever. So, if you noticed, right, anytime an NXT call-up came to the main roster, 9 times out of 10, they ended up doing a character change. There were only a handful that came up that actually kept their character. Elias was one of them. Riddle was one of them. And this is just me thinking off the top of my head relatively quickly. The Hit Row. They were a tag team that kept their original gimmick from NXT, Street Profits, so on and so forth. But we had some that came up with a character change. Karrion Kross, he was one of them. Viking Raiders, they were one of them. Who else? Tommaso Ciampa, he was one of them. And the list really goes on and on. Now, the one thing that we had, Keith Lee probably was the biggest one, besides Karrion Kross, depending on where your fans stand. Now, the IWC, your diehard fans of NXT, even your casual fans of NXT, we were all left confused whenever we saw a main NXT call up to the main roster and they end up undergoing this character package. Oh my God, I forgot about this one. Really quick. What were their names? Retribution. Jesus Christ. That was a waste of every single person in that group. And the bad thing about that one, they were all talented. Alright, back to what I was saying. So, we were always wondering, why? Why would you do the character change? Now, my personal philosophy with this was that Vince McMahon had a very big ego problem. That's evident. I don't care how subjective you look at it. Vince McMahon had a very big ego problem, and he was a control freak. A lot of speculations as to why he changed certain characters but didn't, and left certain characters the same. One of my personal philosophies is that if you really noticed it, a lot of the characters or a lot of performers that came up that underwent gimmick changes or character changes were those that were primarily loved by Triple H when they were down at NXT. So as a result, I personally feel that Vince would do this simply because he did not create that person. And Vince wanted to be accredited with the creation of any big name, any popular superstar. It had to be a Vince McMahon original. And the problem with that was that when he would do these gimmick changes, and it wouldn't work, but he refused to go back to what it was before. Triple H coming into power, being the head of creative, he immediately did exactly what I believe NXT was originally created for. Once you develop a star, you develop a gimmick, you use that and you shift it over to the main roster. The star is established, the gimmick is over, the character is built. So you take all of that momentum and you shift it to the main roster. And that is what gives the main roster a boost. It adds that fresh talent, fresh character, someone that you're familiar with already. It's kind of hard to get behind somebody that you don't know. It's going to take a little bit of time. Triple H has fixed this. We see this with Johnny Gargano. We are seeing this with the reversion of we see this with Johnny Gargano. We see this with Dakota Kai. We see this with Io Shirai. We also are seeing this with who else? Has LA Knight, and so on and so forth. A lot of the most recent NXT call-ups have been reverted back to their gimmicks that they had in NXT, and it is going well. It is going absolutely phenomenal because it makes so much sense. It just makes sense. Why would you bring them up and change them? And now it's like learning a new person all over again, except for the fact that you don't want to learn them because the way that you changed them actually sucks. The next thing that Triple H has done to improve the quality of WWE television is factions. The booking of factions. Now, one of the major things to me that stood out in the Attitude Era was booking and faction booking. The reason being is because factions is how you created your next level superstars for the main event picture, your upper mid card. They came from the factions. When you had limited television time, but you had a lot of guys that you wanted to highlight and to be seen, you simply put them in a faction and you put them on TV. You created other factions to create faction warfare storylines, so this way, all of that talent that you're looking to build for the future is being exposed to the crowd, to the audience, to the fan base, and it's allowing us to get behind them as individuals. Ministry of Darkness, classic faction. Nation of Domination, classic faction. D-Generation X, classic faction. Heart Foundation, those are some of the classic factions of the Attitude Era, and if you really pay attention, every single superstar with the exception of maybe Viscera and Minion and was it the Bashams? And the Bashams, they didn't really pan out from the Ministry of Darkness. But every single superstar, for the most part, that came from one of those factions ended up being a next level performer. They ended up going to the main event picture, they ended up going to the upper mid card, and either which way it go, they became a draw for the company. Fast forward to 2022. we lost the ability, or we lost faction booking over the years, which put WWE in a dilemma where they were struggling to create new stars. Now that Triple H is back in the power, he is utilizing factions for the proper and correct way. We are now seeing this with him bringing back Hit Row, keeping them at that same gimmick, by the way. We're also seeing this with Legado del Fantasma. Probably butchered the name off the top of my head. The Judgment Day, which is now starting to get better. You're seeing this with the introduction of the OC. We are seeing factions being developed and built, and as a result, we're seeing a lot of good superstars, a lot of good wrestlers get the screen time that they deserve, and they're putting on incredible performances, and they're elevating to the next level, or they're being elevated to the next level. And one of the last things that Triple H has done to really make WWE must-see TV is booking. Simple, classic, logical booking, and introducing long-term booking. And going back to point one with booking, he's also carrying over storylines from NXT to the main roster, one of which is Hit Row and Legado del Fantasma. Great freaking booking. Simple. Every storyline has logic to it. We've seen what he's doing with the Intercontinental title and the United States Championship, making those titles highlighted, making those titles spotlighted, making those titles important. He is making them matter again, because under the Vince McMahon regime, they got lost in the shuffle. Prior to Vince coming into power, I want you to really think about, when was the last time that you saw an Intercontinental Championship match on a premium live event or pay-per-view? I can't even remember prior to Triple H. Same thing with the United States Championship. Those just ended up becoming secondary titles that we as fans simply had no interest in, because there were nothing special about them. There were really no storylines being created about them, and people held them and did nothing. Shinsuke Nakamura is a prime example. This man had, 2, 3 Intercontinental title runs, and they sucked. Never defended the title, except 1 or 2 times, and he held it for months. There were times where he was the champion and wasn't even on the show. He wasn't even on pre-shows. He wasn't defending on pay-per-views or premium live events. He did nothing. He was just a placeholder. And that is what caused the title to lose value. Triple H said that he's going to take this thing back to the original Attitude Era, when we saw actually high-level rivalries, feuds, storylines over the titles. The Intercontinental title, the United States, at the time it was the European Championship, then the United States Championship. And I really hope that they bring back the European title. I think I may do a video about that all by itself. Either which way it go, this man is elevating emotional based storylines into the mid-level title pictures. Let's take a look at what's going on right now with the United States Championship. You got Seth Rollins, who freaking deserves that belt, because this man has been a workhorse for the last 2 years. This man has been working hard to build new stars and help get people over, and at the same time maintaining an incredible level of credibility. So yes, and Seth Rollins is a prime example of the wrestlers that actually deserve to hold those mid-card titles. They go to the workhorses. That's what they are. You guys are grinding day in, day out, reliable, that can be counted on, that don't mind doing the job, but at the same time, they understand when they need to go over, they're going to go over. So they get rewarded with title runs. Look at what's going on with the Intercontinental title. You got Sheamus chasing Gunther, and you got the emotional storyline of Sheamus trying to complete it to become a Grand Slam champion. But going back to the United States Championship, you also have a great storyline now where Seth Rollins can literally be beat or literally be challenged by anyone, and you're not even able to predict who is going to take the title off of him. Classic logical booking. Vince McMahon had a really bad habit of doing predictable booking. Triple H said, nah, we're not doing that. We're going to actually make you think We're going to actually make you try to figure out where we're going with the storyline. And when you think you got it figured out, we're going to swerve you. I don't care who you are. Wrestling fans love a solid swirl. Now, somebody may say down in the comments, well, what about the bloodline? It's so predictable. Is it really? Is it really? Because here's a little quick snippet. With the bloodline, for example, and the booking of the bloodline, we know that Roman is going to hold the title to WrestleMania. That's predictable. However, we also know that the bloodline is going to have to end at some point in time. Now, if you really look at it, you have the possibility of the bloodline turning on Sami Zayn, okay, and kicking him out, and then him teaming up with Kevin Owens and beating the Usos for the tag titles. Or you have the possibility of Sami Zayn winning the Money in the Bank contract, possibly next year, depending on how long this goes, and then screwing Roman over for the title if Roman retains at WrestleMania. You have the possibility of Jey Uso being fed up, breaking up the bloodline. Solo Sikoa, he could break it up. See, you have so many endless possibilities with this bloodline angle that it's really hard to tell who's going to do what. That's the booking that we have been missing. I don't care. Like I said before, I don't care who you are. You want a storyline that's going to keep you invested. You want booking that is going to keep you invested. You want a product that is going to make you say, man, I can't miss wrestling tonight because I need to see what's going to happen next. Or let me make sure my DVR is set to record because there's no way that I can miss this episode. I don't want to find out on social media. I want to be able to go back and watch it. And the best part is the introduction of cliffhangers. Remember that? Remember back in the day when we used to have cliffhangers to end the show to make you want to tune in to see the next episode? SmackDown, for example. Guarantee you that SmackDown is going to have very high ratings simply because look how we ended last week with Bray Wyatt. Absolute cliffhanger. Technically, I'll say the Monday Night Raw is the cliffhanger. So classic booking, introducing or the proper utilization of NXT and booking factions. 3 simple things that Triple H has done so far as the head of creative, the one running the company, the one calling the shots. And those 3 simple things have increased viewership, have fans reinvested, and possibly recovering a lot of fans that were lost under the reign of Vince McMahon toward his latter years of running the company. So yeah, it's safe to say that Triple H has buried Vince. Now, will Vince McMahon go on to be totally erased as far as his fingerprint on the company? Maybe. Who knows? Either which way it goes, I am glad that Triple H, Paul Lefesque, is running the WWE. Alright, that's going to do it for me. Again, my name is Stephen Ramon with Unscripted Wrestling Media. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button, click that bell icon, turn on your notifications so when I upload new content, you won't miss it. Also, if you got any questions, drop them down in the comments. If you don't agree with what I said, drop them down in the comments. Or if you want to better what I said or want to add to the conversation, hit the comments. That's what they're there for. Hit your boy up in the comments. And until then, don't forget, live unscripted. I'll see y'all in the next video.